What is up, guys? It is the Sound Alchemist, and today I am bringing you some more 40k lore. Now, this time it is going to be about an awesome race that I feel we don't cover too often on the channel. It is one of the most dangerous, if not the most dangerous threat to the Imperium. Nah, it's the whole galaxy. These guys are a threat to the whole galaxy. But tabletop-wise, gameplay-wise, they are shit. It is everybody's favorite bugs, the Tyranids. So without further ado, let me bring you 40 facts on the weapons and I guess biomorphs, since they don't have war gear, of the Tyranid hive fleet. From the cold darkness of the intergalactic void came a race of ravenous aliens known as the Tyranids. A numberless horde of super predators governed only by the instincts to hunt, kill, and feed. Each Tyranid is a living weapon, perfectly adapted to its designated function, but each creature is no more than a single cell in a vast gestalt entity controlled by the will of the monstrous hive mind. As the Tyranid hive fleet drifts throughout space, they strip all life from the prey worlds in their path, leaving nothing but scoured rock in their wake. And let us begin with the melee weapons. The Bone Sword. Bone swords are living monomolecular blades that can drain the life force of their victims. Each bone sword is just as sharp as any bladed weapon. Crushing Claws. The obscene strength of these claws allow them to smash any foe. Oftentimes found on towering behemoths, these claws can crush even mega tanks of the Imperium. The Lash Whip. Lash whips are cords of muscle that move at lightning speeds to slash their prey. The Lash Whip and Bone Sword. Some Tyranid creatures wield these bioweapons as a deadly symbiotic combination, killing almost anything at light speed. The Rending Claws. Rending claws are diamond-hard tips of claws that can tear through almost any armor. They are almost always found on gene stealers. Scything Talons. These scything talons are long, razor-edged claws of serrated chitin. They are strong enough to go through the Space Marine carapace. And now we move on to the ranged weapons. The Acid Spray. This weapon sprays a caustic digestive fluid that reduces its victims to shapeless goblets of liquefied flesh. The Barbed Strangler weapons, which include the Barbed Strangler and the Stranglethorn Cannon. These weapons fire seed pods that grow to maturity in mere seconds, spreading out hooked tendrils in all directions. The Bioelectric weapons. Bioelectric Pulse and the Bioelectric Pulse with containment spines. As a Trigon moves, it generates a potent biostatic field that discharges with lethal effect when the Trigon sights prey. Trigon primes have curved spines sprouting from their bodies, which contain and amplify this energy. The Bioplasma. Some Carnifexes can generate a roaring ball of bioplasma within their bodies, and they vomit forth the resultant energy as an incandescent goblet of fire. The Bioplasmic Cannon is a giant weapon that can channel bioplasma through a series of different ventricles to ensure the destruction of its prey. It unleashes a vast ball of roaring energy through its central chamber, or sometimes it fires several focused streams of death throughout its surrounding barrels. The Cluster Spines. Some Tyranid bioforms have rows of quills embedded on their carapaces that they can project at a considerable distance. The Death Spitter. This multi-creature symbiote fires maggot-like organisms with corrosive innards. A spider-jawed set of fangs drags an organism from its weapon's brooding chamber and strips off its shell, before the Death Spitter reacts to the caustic flesh with a spasm, firing the maggot to explode in a shower of caustic slime against any unfortunate opponent. The Devourer weapon, which includes the Devourer and the Devourer with Brain Leech worms. These weapons fling worm-like parasites that burrow into their victim's flesh and eat their way through its nervous system to the brain. The Devourers, wielded by larger Tyranids, team with hives of Brain Leech worms, a more aggressive and voracious Devourer worm. And now, the Drool Cannon. Drool cannons fire goblets of caustic digestive juices all over their victims, slowly melting them to puddles of mere blood and guts. The Flame Spurt. The Pyrovore's Flame Spurt bioweapon billows forth a blazing plume of fire, engulfing the hive mind's foes in a searing conflagration. The Flesh Borer weapons, which include the Flesh Borer and the Flesh Borer Hive. The Flesh Borer is a compact brood nest for sharp-fanged borer beetles. When the weapon is fired, a frenzied borer beetle will hurtle itself forward with a single flick of its flea-like legs. The beetle then spends its remaining life energy in a few seconds, frantically burrowing through the armor, flesh, and bone of the first thing in its path. The beetle is a seething colony for the very same beetles, but the fanged creatures stored inside the bloated sacs of the hive lay thousands of eggs that hatch and mature at an astonishing rate within the cavernous chambers of the brood nest. Indeed, the flesh-borer hive must eject the beetles at regular intervals to prevent the tyrannofex from bursting apart due to the mass of creatures birthed within it. The Grasping Tongue. This creature's clawed tongue grasps its chosen prey before yanking them into its many-teethed maw. The Impaler Cannon. The Impaler Cannon propels osseous spines at such high velocities that they can punch through reinforced steel. At the base of each spine is a small creature known as a shard beast that uses thin membranes to steer the spine towards its intended target. Next up is the Rupture Cannon. This weapon fires two different projectiles, launched in a quick succession. The first is a bloated tick that bursts upon impact, showering the target in a thick, oily substance. The second is a seed pod. It reacts as soon as its contents touches the tick, creating an implosion which can be wrenched armor vehicles inside out. The Shock Cannon. Shock cannons fire large claws attached to ropes of sinew, which then latch onto the target before delivering a powerful bioelectric surge that electrocutes any prey nearby and disables enemy machinery. The Spike Rifle is a bony muscle-lined tube that launches harpoon-like spikes. The Spine Fist. This weapon creature, typically carried in pairs, has a long tail that burrows through a limb to connect the gun's own air bladder to the airways and vents of its host. A larger host will exhale great salvos of spines, ripping through the flesh of anything caught in the blast. The Stinger Salvo. Stinger salvos are simple but effective weapons that fire rows of meter-long, razor-sharp spikes. The Strangleweb. The Strangleweb fires a mesh of sticky strands that ensnare the foe, leaving them at the mercy of the approaching swarm. And now my personal favorite, the Tentaclids. These living missiles seek out aerial prey, latching onto their targets with barbed fangs before emitting a massive bioelectric pulse. And then we have the Venom Cannon and the Heavy Venom Cannon. These powerful bioweapons fire salvo of corrosive crystals at tremendous velocities which shatter on impact to shred the foe apart. And now we're going to talk about the Thorax Biomorphs, including the Desiccator Larvae, the Electroshock Grubs, and the Shredder Shard Beetles. So certain Tyranids have thoracic cavities that play host to swarm of parasites. Some of these minute creatures drain their victims' vital fluids, while others emit an electrical charge which plays havoc with enemy vehicles, and others still nestle among the foe's armor before exploding in a horrific fashion. And that is the end of the first part of the biomorphs and weapons of the Tyranids. Now these things are pretty freaking nasty because a lot of them fire bugs at you, and I just hate having anything crawling on me. If you guys have seen The Mummy and The Mummy Returns, you know how nasty those scarabs are, which like go inside your body and you could like see them moving, and it's just nasty. It also reminds me of that TV show, Monsters Inside Me. Oh, just imagine having to pull one of these organisms out, which you probably won't because you'll probably be dead by then, but that's just nasty, man. Tyranids were always interesting to me, but the more I learn about them, the more disgusted I am. I'm pretty sure Gersh1 agrees with me, since he does not like little holes. And guess who has little holes? Tyranids. So yeah, guys, let me know what you guys think about the Tyranids. Do they definitely need a codex update? I say of course, because they suck. I'd say the Tyranids and the Orcs, which lore-wise are a pretty big threat, they are the worst of the worst on the tabletop. We do have a friend that plays Tyranids, and they sucked so much he had to switch over to the Space Wolves. So I guess that tells you something, guys. Anyway, guys, let me know what you guys think about these Tyranids, and please stay subscribed because we will get part 2 to their biomorphs and their psychic powers tomorrow. That's all I've got for you guys today. Hit us up on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Patreon for more 40k goodness. As always, guys, you know me as the Sound Alchemist, and I'm part of One Mind Syndicate, which is signing out for today.